Fox News did a segment earlier today about the entitlement nation. Now they've got this segment where they complain about, all the free stuff people are getting and how they're not getting free stuff. Well, this time they decided they wanted to pick on millennials. So they ran this segment, and I want to show you a couple of clips from that segment. But first I want a little bit of context. See, they're going to talk a little bit about youth unemployment and why millennials are moving back in with their parents. So first I want to get to this graphic. Check this out. This is really hilarious. So I want to stop right there because look at that graphic right there. The hand, I'm here to take your stuff. It's like a zombie movie. I mean, they actually designed it to, I don't know, they designed it to, I think, to like scare people or something like that. Like the hand breaking out of America to come steal your shit. It's kind of amazing. Like, if you were somebody from another country and didn't know about what Fox News was, you would think that that's satire. You'd be like, what is this? This has got to be comedy, right? That's so over the top. Like, entitlement nation. Yeah, here's a stretching hand out to take your stuff. Like, what the hell? Anyway, enough about the graphic itself. I actually want to get into what they were talking about. Now, Peter Johnson actually, he brings on somebody named Katie Pavlich. Now, she's, of course, a writer at Townhallcom, and they're going to discuss a little bit about why millennials are moving back with their parents.
21.6 million young adults between the ages of 18 to 31, the so-called millennials, are living with their parents. That's more than 30% of the entire millennial population in the United States. Is the United States becoming the land of adult children? And are the president's policies to blame for that? Let's ask Katie Pavlich. Has America become the land of man-children in the land of Obama?
We're definitely getting there.
We're definitely getting there. We're apparently now the land of man-children, according to Fox News. Now, like I said, Peter Johnson brought Katie Pavlich on to talk about this issue. So, what do you think she's gonna say? Well, do you think she's gonna mention the lack of jobs? She very well could. There are, of course, 3 job seekers for every 1 open job here in America. So maybe she'll mention that. And you know what? She could also blame Obama for it, because we've had very meager job growth under the Obama administration. So if Fox News wanted to spin that angle, they could. So what about student loan debt? Student loan debt, of course, makes it really hard to be able to afford a place when you've got just a mountain of debt. When you've got $50,000 to pay off for your student loans, you can't exactly go out and buy a house. Nor can you really afford to rent a place depending on how much you borrowed. So she's going to mention that. Oh, another thing to throw in, of course, about the student loan debt is, according to the National Center for Education Statistics, the average tuition over the last 30 years has actually increased by 124%. 124% increase in the amount of tuition. So, yeah, when tuition goes up, in order to go to school, you have to borrow more. And a lot of millennials have. So, is she going to mention that? No, of course not. This is Fox News you're talking about. Of course they're not going to mention that. You know what they're going to mention? The fact that millennials are lazy. You don't believe me? Check out this clip.
Dependent on their parents and dependent on big government, because the last thing they want is for young people to go out in the real world and realize how much things actually cost, how many taxes they're paying, and what it takes to be independent.
But what is the interest, the specific interest they have in making sure that young people don't know what it's like in the real world, that are comforted and sheltered by the government dole, by dollars, by checks, by benefits? Why are they doing that? Is the Democratic Party interested in increasing its registration?
It's registration, and we all know that young people typically vote for Democrats until they actually get out in the real world and start pulling a paycheck. You know, Obamacare is a perfect example of why the land of the adult children is happening. So, for example, you had President Obama going out and saying kids can stay on their parents' health insurance until they're 26. And last time I checked, we weren't exactly kids or children at the age of 26. Many people are homeowners. World War II was won by people ages 18 to 26. By the time you're 18, you can sign up to go fight overseas. By the age of 21, you can drink alcohol. And yet, all of a sudden now, we're children.
Oh, okay, that's the problem. So millennials are children, and they're being treated like children by the big government. They're comforted and sheltered by the government dole, as Peter Johnson points out. Now, also notice in there, and this kind of stuck out to me as well, is that they said that, well, Democrats, see, young people vote Democrat until they get out into the real world. Well, they vote Democrat because Democrats like to give them free stuff. And as soon as they get out in the world, they're like, oh my God, this stuff isn't free. I'm going to vote. I'm going to be a good little conservative. When that's actually not true at all. There's actually nothing there to back up her point. She's just talking out of her ass. But, hey, I mean, okay, so we want to talk about maybe if some of these young people really strike it rich. That's a different story. Because when you strike it rich, you're more likely, not in all cases, but you're more likely to be like, hey, I want to lower my taxes. Well, if you want to lower your taxes, vote for Republicans. That's kind of what it is. But if you actually want to help out your fellow man, you will most likely vote Democrat. And if you like education, if you like science, if you like women, you'll probably vote Democrat. I'm just saying. Now, like I said, they're trying to say that Democrats are trying to use stuff like Obamacare to buy votes. So a law that forces you to go and buy private health insurance is somehow a handout. How is being forced to buy your own insurance a handout? That's what I don't understand. How can you spin this? Just the type of mental gymnastics, the type of brain pretzeling that you have to do. You literally have to tie your brain up in a pretzel just to be able to understand what they're talking about. Because they make absolutely zero sense. Now, and it's kind of funny. She also mentioned the tax angle. Well, you know, that the young people, they're going to vote Democrat until they get out into the world and realize how much taxes they have to pay. So which is it, Fox News? Do people pay too much taxes or don't they pay enough? I seem to remember a few Fox News hosts going on about how roughly half of the American population doesn't pay federal income taxes. What's that? It's about 47% of people that don't make enough, that don't have enough to pay into the federal tax system. So which is it? Do they pay too much? Or do they not pay enough? You can't be saying both things at the same time. See, that's what I'm talking about with the whole pretzel thing. You really have to wrap your brain around it and go, wait a minute. You're kind of talking out both sides of your mouth. They don't have a coherent message. But not only that, taxes are actually lower than they've been over the past 30 years. That's right. According to the CBO, the average rate by all households, and that's all households in America, averaged, is 17.4%. Now, of course, the rich, they tend to skew this a little bit. And not only that, but the poor as well. Speaking of the richest 1% pay on average of 28.9%. So once again, we're paying record low taxes. It doesn't exactly make sense what they're saying. So either taxes are too high or they're not. And another thing they said is, well, are young adults trying to avoid adulthood? You know, by staying on President Obama's insurance. They're essentially being called kids. Well, she cited some examples, you can smoke at 18, you can drink at 21, you can join the military. Oh, but God forbid you can actually stay on your parents' insurance. I don't know if you know this, but insurance for young people is still fairly expensive. And a lot of young people, a lot of millennials, actually can't afford insurance because they're not established in their careers. And I'll get to that. I'll get to a little bit about that later. But I just want to say that, like I said, they're not established in their careers. So they really don't have employee-sponsored insurance. Not only that, but a lot of employers don't really sponsor insurance anymore. So you're not really getting a whole lot from work. Like, a lot of millennials will actually, work at McDonald's or other lower wage places that don't offer benefits. So it makes sort of sense while you're working your way up and while you're working your way through school to be able to stay in your parents' insurance. But no. Fox News, Katie Pavlik, she's like, they're treating us like children. How dare they give us health care? I'm sorry, not health care. How dare they give us health insurance? How dare they give us cheap health insurance? Next, you're trying to try to force us to eat our broccoli. Oh, you don't think Fox News actually hasn't talked about eating broccoli? That was part of the Obamacare debate, too, where they would say, oh, what's next? With Obamacare, they're going to force you to eat broccoli. Big government. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So, look, back to the question, do you think adults are avoiding adulthood by staying with their parents? No, of course not. There's not a lot of people who want to sit in their basement, their parents' basement, and not do anything. There's a few. There's a few well-documented cases of that happening, yes, of course. But the majority of millennials, they don't want to live with your parents. Living with your parents, I imagine, has got to really suck. So, I can imagine that a lot of people, a lot of millennials, don't want to live with their parents. Why are they still living with their parents? What are the real reasons behind this? Well, for one, you can look at wages. Now, wages have been stagnant. That's no surprise. Wages have been pretty much flat for the last 30 years. Degrees, they don't go nearly as far as they used to. And it, of course, depends on the field that you get into. But a lot of degrees, a lot of colleges have been flooded by an influx of people trying to escape the bad economy, trying to get marketable skills to get back in the workforce. And then you've got older people as well who have been displaced from their jobs, and they're getting retrained into new things. So now you've got lots of people graduating from college. Great for the college industry, especially for the for-profit college industry. But you have a glut of degrees and not enough jobs. You have 3 job seekers for every open job that you have. That degree doesn't carry as much weight as it used to when all of your competition also has the same degree. So no, it's not because they're lazy. But that's what Fox News says. Now, you got to look at the Fox News audience to kind of understand why this resonates with them. The Fox News audience is, on average, about age 75. They're old people, okay? And they're old people, and you hear a lot of them be like, God, those lazy kids. I remember when I had to walk uphill in the snow to school with no shoes on. It's just that it's sort of that mentality that I worked harder than you. But when you look at production over the last 30 years, when you look at production, Americans are more productive than ever before. And yes, you've got technology, you've got computers now, you've got other things that also help. But that doesn't mean just because you have computers and technology that the people aren't working hard either. Millennials do work hard. They do a lot of things. So, and they're in a very, very competitive market environment. So no, it's not because they're lazy. And look, there's something, of course, that Johnson and Pavlik, they left out when it comes to how many people are living at home with their parents. They cited about 30% of all millennials live at home, right? Well, that's not entirely true. You see, according to the surveys where they get their information, in 2012, 39% of 18 to 24-year-olds were actually enrolled in college. Now, did you know that college dorms actually count as home as living at home in these surveys? Oh, they didn't tell you that now, did they? They conveniently left that little tidbit out. That's right. If you live in a college dorm, you are counted as living at home with your parents. So you may be out there getting a bachelor's degree, and you may have a part-time job to go along with that degree, but you're still counted as living at home. And you're the ones that, and you're lumped in with the people who actually do live in their parents' basements and don't want to work. Because there are those people. Those people exist. And the people that are actually out there getting an education to better themselves, to actually be competitive in the market, they're being counted in this. So, look, when it just shows you that Fox News doesn't give you the whole story. When they start saying some facts, and yes, these facts are true, but they also leave out other ones. So you really have to watch out when you watch a segment on Fox News. You have to get the whole story. You have to see how this stuff is counted. And Fox News, they really count on their viewers to not research this stuff, to not look into this. And that's how they get you. That's how they misinform you. And so, once again, you've got higher unemployment adding to that, as well as higher college attendance. You've got more millennials going to school in order to avoid the recession and come out better trained with so they can get better jobs. And then you've also got more single people, millennials, that are holding off from getting married, holding off from pairing up until they have their careers set. So really, while youth unemployment for millennials is pretty high, 16%, as Fox News pointed out, you've got varying reasons for this. And when you start to look at this, you realize that, yeah, it's not the millennials being lazy. It's not President Obama trying to buy votes. It's not the big government coming in and treating these people as if they're children. No, you've got a lot of different factors that are included in this. And it just so happens that people that are biased at Fox News tend to always leave that stuff out. Hey, thanks for watching this video. Please leave a comment below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button and share with your friends. If you want to see more, go to our channel at youtube.com/TYTNation. And if you really want to support the show, support this channel, go to our fundraising campaign at www.patreon.com/TYTNation. The website is in the description below. Thank you guys, and keep watching.